In this week's exciting episode of 2 Minute Tuesday, we're going to leave behind the recent topics of solar electricity, 5-star luxury relaxation spas, and we're going to get back onto the nitty-gritty of buying property in Spain, or selling property in this instance, because we're going to be looking at the paperwork that you need as a vendor in order to sell your property without issue. So welcome to episode number 135 of 2 Minute Tuesday, where we get back on the topic of paperwork, and maybe we should be grateful that we're not talking about taxes. But welcome to episode 135 of 2 Minute Tuesday. So it really does pay to have all your paperwork in order, even if you're only thinking about putting your property on the market. It's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, it's going to save you stress in the future when buyers are involved, agents, and maybe even buyers' lawyers enter the equation. Now, you'll find that we've covered most of these individual topics in previous episodes of 2 Minute Tuesday. So with a little diligent searching on your behalf, if you go back through the 2 Minute Tuesday archives, you'll find a more detailed breakdown of each of the things that we're going to be talking about. So here we go. We're going to start with the certificate of habitation. Now, it's going to be called the certificate of habitation, the license of habitation, the cedula, the certificate of secondary occupation. It has many, many names. It's all basically, though, the similar. It's the same document. It's something that you will hear agents talking about and lawyers talking about. Now, it's basically a document to say that the property was built in accordance with the rules and the regulations at the time of its construction, and it's safe for this particular property to be connected to utilities. Now, this document is issued when the property is built, and it's the license of first occupation, and it's normally valid for 10 years. Now, when this document expires, it's not that you actually need to update it until you come to sell. Now, the next time it's issued as a license of secondary occupation, and this is normally valid for 5 years, occasionally 10 years. And it's generally the architect from the local town hall will come and visit the property and make sure that any changes to the property that you've done have been built in accordance with the correct licenses and permissions, and that you've paid any fees, and that you have the correct certification. It normally takes 2 to 4 weeks for the document to be produced by the town hall, and there's a small fee to pay. And this is all the licenses and the documents that you have for any improvements that you've undertaken. Now, most of us, when we buy a property, over time we'll do updates, we'll do improvements, extensions, maybe garages or workshops, garden sheds. We could lay terraces, and of course add things like swimming pools if they're not already at the property. Now, a lot of these things will require licenses and permissions. And so it's very, very important that you get together all the licenses, documents, and the end of works, which is the fin de obras documents, for anything that you've done. Without these, you may have to go to the added expense of paying to have an architect do something called a certificate of antiquity, where they can look at the changes that have been made and date them. But if you have all the correct licenses and documents from the town hall, get them all in one place, because they will be beneficial to you during the sale. The third option that we've got here for documents to get in order is to have the cadastral done and make sure that this is correct. Now, this is important because the cadastral shows everything that you have. So basically, it will show on the cadastral document that there is a villa there is a pool, there is a garage, say a garden store, and that they're all shown on the document. Simplistically, a cadastral is the entity that qualifies what your property consists of with measurements, and this is the data basis for what the town hall use for raising your property taxes. Now, normally cadastral fly over all properties each year and they take photographs. They can then use these photographs to sort of see any additions since the previous year. So if, for example, let's say you've built a swimming pool and you haven't registered it, then when they fly over, they'll notice that there's a big blue rectangle in the garden full of water with a picture of a dolphin or a compass in the bottom. They'll presume that's a swimming pool, and they will then increase your council tax, and they will also back tax you for any period that you haven't paid the tax on it. you have to remember in Spain, it's your obligation to inform the cadastral of any works that you've had done. So don't rely on the fact that you think that the town hall will automatically inform the cadastral, because they won't. So it's your responsibility to inform them. Okay, number 4, we've got the escritura. Now, the escritura is your property deeds. This is the land registry document that says what you own. So you'll have you should have a copy of the escritura. It's a Spanish language document, and regardless of your level of Spanish, you should be able to leaf through it and sort of check to see what is on there. As an agent, when I go to somebody's house to do a valuation, I always ask to see the escritura or the nota simple, which is a simplified version of it, when visiting a villa. We check that the villa is actually listed as a family dwelling, and it's not there as a cattle store or a farmyard barn or something like that, that it's listed as a family dwelling, that all the buildings, the pool, etc. are listed, and that the plot and the measurements are accurate and tie into the cadastral details. Now, you may have not looked at your deeds since you purchased the property, so it's maybe worthwhile going ahead and digging them out and having a look. Now, obviously, if you bought the property and subsequently you've added something, let's say, again, a swimming pool, it won't feature on your deeds. So this is part of the work that needs to be undertaken by your lawyer for the conveyancing, so that when your buyers buy the property, when they read through the deeds, it will not only say a villa, but it will also say a swimming pool on there. But this is a standard part of the conveyancing, and your deeds will be brought up to date as per the sale as it's agreed. Okay, next up we've got utilities, easy one to miss out. Now, most people receive their water and their electricity bills online nowadays, rather than having a paper one that comes through the post. Print them out. You will need to take a copy of the most recent water and electricity bill to your lawyer. There's 2 reasons for this. It's to make sure that all of the bills are paid and up to date, so the buyer's lawyer will check to make sure that you've paid everything and that there's nothing outstanding. They also will need the account numbers so that they can then swap the utilities from your name and your bank account into the name and the bank account of the people who are buying your property. So it's important that you have a copy of the most recent water, electricity bills. Also, if you have mains gas, which isn't common here, but if you're on an urban development, you might have gas. And also copies of any any taxes that you have. So your SUMA bill when you pay your IBI tax, and also if you have a bins tax or a sewage tax, something like that. So copies of all your utility and taxes. Next up, we have the EPC. This is the Energy Performance Certificate. Now, if you've bought a house in the last 5 or 6 years, you should have had a copy of this when you purchased the property. The document itself is valid for 10 years, so if you've got one, don't lose it. If not, we'll arrange for a qualified person to come and undertake the EPC survey, and your property will be graded in the rainbow sort of grading from A to G for energy efficiency. Now, it's probably less important in Spain than it would be in Northern Europe to have a high grading. However, the higher the grading means the less energy that you need to put into the house, whether it's heating or cooling. Now, we have our doors and windows open most of the year here in Spain, but when you're coming to cool a house, you want a house to be thermally efficient as well as when you're heating it. So it is an important document. The next up, we've got the fiscal documents. Now, if you live in Spain for 183 days of the year, then you are a fiscal resident and you need to do a tax return. In order to stop the Spanish tax office from retaining 3% of the sale price of your villa, you need to show the tax returns to your lawyer or your gestor, and then the retention tax won't be levied against you. And finally, your NIE number. Now, you will need the original NIE certificate or card. Now, I always advise my clients that when you get your original NIE, turn it over, write on the back of it, original. Sounds very simple, but you're giving your NIE original certificate to lots of people for many things in Spain, and when they give it you back, you can turn it over and make sure that you're getting the original one back, and not the photocopy. And that's it. There you go. These are the most important things to get in order prior to listing your property for sale. Now, any sort of competent agent will ask you to provide all of these either at the listing or at any point so that they can be checked prior to viewings, and it's going to make it plain sailing for you. It's going to make it plain sailing for the agent themselves, and of course that helps the buyers and the buyer's lawyer. If everything is up to date, then it's going to be nice and easy for everybody. Don't worry though if there are items that do need updating. It's really common if you've lived in a house for many years for items to need updating. You've added things over the years. These are all done as part of the standard conveyancing. The fact that your property paperwork isn't 100% up to date, it doesn't make it illegal. It just means it needs updating. Regardless, it always pays to be prepared. And that's it for this week. My details should be on the screen at the moment, so please feel free to drop me a line if you've got any questions about this video, about buying property, selling property. If you'd like to book a valuation, free no obligation valuation with us, then we'll pop along and do that. If you'd like it to have a document check, although whether you need a document check or not, having seen this video from start to finish, is debatable. Anyway, until the next episode of 2 Minute Tuesday, we look forward to seeing you then. Until then, adios.